Hello, hello, hello. Yes, it is Wednesday. And yes, we typically do our lives on Monday, but Monday was a holiday. So I love you all dearly, but no, was not coming in on Monday to do that. And Tuesday got a little crazy with this new thing that we have that's launching next Monday. So that is my one little caveat, and then I will jump in and share a little bit more about that at the end. But what I want to talk about today and think about is this like, so what are our different types of graph types? I'm just off an amazing webinar. Woo woo! Thank you for all that came and all you contributed. It was so super fun working with you all earlier today. The 4 steps to graph like a pro and transform your teaching was wonderful. But we had these great questions about when do we use which types of visualizations and how do we think about that? And then that got me thinking there are lots of different bar charts out there. It might be a little funny. I feel like, I mean, a bar chart is a bar chart is a bar chart, but actually there's a whole range of kinds of bar charts that we make and that we create with our students. And there are two that come into play when we have multiple categories that we are like multiple categorical variables that we want to be looking at and playing with our students at the same time. And so I thought, what better thing to do than like after riding all the awesome energy from the webinar and all the amazing work that is happening here at Dataspire to launch what's launching on Monday, let's pause and think about, so what is the difference? What are these different things between a stacked bar chart and a stretched bar chart? Okay, so I'm trying to pull this up so that you all can see it as well. So on our left here, we have the stretched bar chart. This is super helpful with survey data. I'm just going to say that out there. Like it's a really good option. If you've got a Likert scale and and you're looking at survey data and you've got a couple different questions, this is what this one actually is of. There are other use cases. So it is not only good for survey data, but it is far better for survey data than, say, just a bar chart. Why? Well, because we have a bunch of things going on. We have 3 different questions or 3 different options that adults were given that they could respond to in terms of, I hold a leadership position in my school, I have volunteered for a community organization, I try to find time to make a difference in my community. So those are 3 options that survey respondents could have responded to. And for each of those options, they could have said yes, sorta, or no. Okay. So then when it comes to thinking about, well, do we do an individual bar chart for each question and then we're looking across bar charts? Yes, that could totally work if we're just interested in what are responses for this one type. But if we're trying to see kind of overall across these different groups, across these different options, generally, how are we doing in terms of volunteering and finding time and participating in the community? That is when the stretch bar chart is your friend. We can see of the response, right? We could put that all into, we could just look at the yeses, but it's also really helpful sometimes to see, well, what is the yes in comparison to the sortas and the no's so that we can see of all respondents to this question, how are they responding? And so if that kind of the overall for all respondents is really helpful, then yeah, we want to jump in and we want this to be anchored to 100%. We want to look at at the composition overall across categories, across groups, things like that. I mean, there is a whole heck of a lot baked in to this stretched bar chart. Our stacked bar chart is very similar, except we are not anchored to 100%. We are not looking at kind of across our different groups, the composition in general across the groups. Instead, we're interested in absolute value. So we're still looking at the composition, the proportions of these different categories. within a group. But then when we come to looking across groups, actually, we're really interested to see, oh, there are a lot more burgers sold on Saturday than there are on Sunday. That would not show up on the stretch bar chart because everything gets anchored to that full whole. We're looking at proportion or percentages in our stretch bar chart. In our stacked bar chart, we can look at the quantities, the absolute values. It also helps us make general comparisons across our categories and among our groups and things like that. But it also gives us the possibility of looking at absolute values. It makes it harder to see proportionally, are the vegetarian burgers sold on Friday similar to or different proportionally to those spent on Sunday, because the width of it is different, because the absolute value, the total number of vegetarian burgers sold on Sunday was more than it was on Friday. And so that's where it gets a little bit different. So it comes back to the like, well, what are we trying to do? And what are we trying to have going on in our graph? So these are two types of bar charts that we can use when we have multiple categorical variables: days of the week, types of burgers, and numbers. So we've got a number and two categorical variables. Stretch bar chart and stacked bar chart can be super helpful. And this thing down at the bottom that says confusion to clarity is the exciting thing that launches on Monday. We have been working hard here at Dataspire, getting this all ready, getting the modules in, getting those lessons recorded. The assets for every single lesson has at least one, if not up to four, extra resources in each lesson, helping think about, how do we apply this lesson? How do we bring it into our classroom? How do we get better at mastering our graphing and different pieces like that? But here's the deal. We are so excited about it. And the cart closes on tomorrow. Oh my goodness, tomorrow, May 30th. How are we already here to the end of May? So if you want to jump in, if you want to dive in and join us in the Confusion to Clarity 3 Steps to Master Graphing, I recommend, here, let me pull it up so that you can just see it right on your own. I recommend you click on the link. I'll put it into the resource. Jump in here, take a look at what we are doing in the course. It is built out all around how do we know what each of these 14 common visualization types are that show up in our grades 4 through 10 science, social studies, and math standards. Identify when and why to make each of them, like getting really into the nitty gritty, like we just did with the stack versus the stretch, but even deeper in terms of how it relates to our curriculum, and how do we make them once and for all. How do we rock making these graphs with different freely available resources, spreadsheet programs, and interactive graphing programs, as well as by hand for our students to get like solid and really grounded in making our visualizations. So you can jump in, you can check this out, but I just want to say, so down here, there's 2 ways that you can jump in and join and enroll in the course before tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. or whatever it is. Right before midnight is where we are going with that. Because that's it. The cart closes. So it's the only time to jump in is between now and tomorrow evening. If you want to join, please do. Once you join in, you get indefinite access to the course. Yep. So you don't have to start it on Monday. It will just go live for you on Monday. And then you can come to it in a week, in a month, in a year from now. Whenever it works for you, it is there. It is waiting for you. You can come back to it. You can review it. And whenever we do a revision in the future, it will be there. It will be automatically uploaded into your course site. And so it's asynchronous. You do it on your time schedule, and you do it whenever it is you're interested in doing it in the future. And when you complete it all, we will send you a certificate for 4 professional development hours for doing the course. So if that's of interest, I just wanted to add that here. If you're sort of got some nuggets on the stacked versus the stretch bar chart, and you're interested in what that looks like for a scatter plot or a line graph, or the other kinds of bar charts we make, or a box plot, or a histogram, or a core plus map, or a symbol map, or some of these other visualization types that show up a lot in our curriculum, then click on the link, jump in, join us in the Confusion to Clarity 3 Steps to Master Graphing. So excited to support you in there. And I will be back on Monday with another live, jumping into another thing that we should think about, or a resource, or a tip, or a strategy, or a suggestion, something that hopefully helps resonates and helps you teach graphing and data to your students. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you all next week.